On what began as a routine Thursday, a catastrophic event unfolded in the skies above Ahmedabad, forever marking June 12, 2025, as a day of immense sorrow. Air India flight AI-171 was scheduled for a long-haul journey from Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel International Airport to London Gatwick, a path travelled by thousands each year. For the 242 souls on board, it was supposed to be the start of a new chapter, a return home, or maybe just a business trip. But their journey was cut tragically short just moments after it began, ending in a fiery devastation that has sent shockwaves across India and the world, leaving a community and a nation grappling with an unspeakable loss. The aircraft, a modern Boeing 787-8 Dreamliner, lifted off the runway at precisely 1:38 p.m. Indian Standard Time. Everything seemed normal for the first few seconds of its ascent. However, the pilots quickly encountered a catastrophic problem. A Mayday distress call was transmitted, a desperate signal of an emergency that no one on the ground could have anticipated. According to flight data, the plane reached an altitude of only 625 feet and a speed of 174 knots before all communication and tracking signals were abruptly lost. This sudden silence was a chilling prelude to the horror that was about to unfold on the ground. The plane plummeted from the sky, crashing just outside the airport's perimeter. Its final devastating impact was upon the canteen and hostel buildings of the nearby BJ Medical College in the Meganinagar area. This densely populated location meant the tragedy was not confined to the passengers and crew alone. It extended to the students and staff on the ground who were in the direct path of the falling wreckage. The impact triggered a massive explosion and a subsequent fire, sending a towering column of black smoke into the afternoon sky that was visible for miles, a grim beacon of the disaster. Initial reports from aviation authorities point towards a complete failure of the engine as the likely cause of this horrific incident. While this is a preliminary assessment, it provides a starting point for investigators trying to piece together the final moments of Flight AI-171. The Directorate General of Civil Aviation has already dispatched a high-level accident investigation team to the crash site. Their meticulous work sifting through the debris and analyzing the flight data recorders will be crucial in providing definitive answers and ensuring such a mechanical failure does not happen again. The human cost of the AI-171 crash is staggering and almost incomprehensible. The flight was carrying 242 individuals, a diverse group comprising passengers and crew members from various nations. The passenger manifest revealed a deeply international composition, with 169 Indian nationals, 53 British citizens, 7 Portuguese nationals, and 1 Canadian citizen. Each number represents a life, a family, and a story that ended abruptly in the wreckage. Among the victims was Vijay Rupani, the former Chief Minister of Gujarat, whose presence on the flight added a layer of public grief to the already profound sense of national loss, reminding everyone that tragedy does not discriminate. As rescue teams worked tirelessly through the afternoon and into the evening, the true scale of the casualties became horrifyingly clear. The crash site, a scene of twisted metal and raging fire, also claimed the lives of people on the ground. By 7 p.m. on the day of the disaster, officials had confirmed the recovery of 284 bodies, a number that included those from the aircraft and the medical college buildings. The final death toll is tragically expected to climb above 300, making this one of the deadliest aviation accidents in recent history. The intensity of the post-crash fire meant many victims were charred beyond recognition, necessitating a long and painful process of DNA identification for grieving families. Amidst the overwhelming loss, there was a single miraculous glimmer of survival. Officials confirmed that one passenger was found alive in the wreckage and rushed to the hospital, a lone survivor against impossible odds. This small miracle, however, is set against a backdrop of immense sorrow for the hundreds of families who would not be so fortunate. The Asarwa Civil Hospital became the epicenter of both hope and despair as medical staff worked to save the injured, while others prepared to handle the grim task of identifying the deceased, a process that will bring painful closure to so many waiting for news. The numbers associated with this disaster paint a stark picture of the event's magnitude. The flight, AI-171, crashed moments after its 1:38 p.m. takeoff. The 242 people on board were joined in death by dozens on the ground, pushing the death toll towards an unimaginable figure. The nationalities of the victims underscore the global nature of air travel and the far-reaching impact of the crash. These figures are not just statistics. They represent a profound and devastating loss of life that has left an indelible scar on the city of Ahmedabad and the international community. In the immediate aftermath of the crash, a massive and coordinated emergency response was launched, demonstrating a remarkable display of interagency cooperation in the face of chaos. Hundreds of personnel from the National Disaster Response Force, the Indian Air Force, the Army, and the Central Industrial Security Force were rapidly deployed to the scene. They worked alongside local police and fire brigades, who were the first to arrive. Their primary objectives were to extinguish the ferocious blaze, search for survivors in the smoldering debris, and secure the crash site to preserve evidence for the impending investigation. The government's reaction was swift and decisive, with leadership at both the state and national levels mobilizing to oversee the relief efforts. Prime Minister Narendra Modi announced he was closely monitoring the situation from Delhi and had directed the Civil Aviation Minister, Ram Mohan Naidu, to fly to Ahmedabad immediately to coordinate the operations on the ground. Gujarat's Chief Minister, Bhupendra Patel, rushed to the Asarwar Civil Hospital to meet with the injured and offer solace to the families who had begun to gather, their faces etched with anxiety and fear. Home Minister Amit Shah confirmed the rapid deployment of specialized disaster forces to aid in the complex rescue and recovery mission. Support systems for the victims' families were quickly established to provide information and assistance during an agonizing time of uncertainty. Air India, under its parent company, the Tata Group, set up a dedicated passenger helpline, 1800569144, to handle inquiries from relatives. The Tata Group also made a significant commitment to the victims, announcing a compensation of rupees 1 crore to the families of each deceased individual. Furthermore, they pledged to cover all medical expenses for the injured and to fund the complete rebuilding of the damaged medical college hostel, a gesture of corporate responsibility in a moment of profound crisis. The international community responded with messages of condolence and offers of support, reflecting the global impact of the tragedy. With 53 British nationals on board, the crash was deeply felt in the United Kingdom. British Prime Minister Keir Starmer described the news as deeply distressing and devastating for his country. He confirmed that consular support was being immediately provided to the families of the British victims, ensuring they had the necessary assistance from their government while navigating this horrific event from afar. These international expressions of solidarity provided a small measure of comfort to a grieving nation. The crash of Flight AI-171 has plunged countless families into a well of grief, leaving a void that can never be filled. For the relatives of the 242 passengers and crew, and for the families of those killed on the ground, the world has irrevocably changed. The process of identifying victims through DNA analysis will be a long and emotionally draining ordeal, prolonging the agony for those desperately awaiting closure. The lone survivor's story, while miraculous, serves as a stark reminder of the hundreds who did not make it, amplifying the collective sense of loss that has enveloped Ahmedabad and touched communities across the globe. This tragedy is a human story, one of interrupted lives and shattered dreams. Beyond the immediate sorrow, the focus has now shifted to accountability and prevention. The preliminary report suggesting a complete failure of the engine has raised urgent questions about aircraft maintenance, safety protocols, and the reliability of the Boeing 787-8 Dreamliner fleet. The investigation by the Directorate General of Civil Aviation will be paramount. Its findings must be thorough, transparent, and unflinching. The families of the victims and the public deserve to know exactly what went wrong. This is not about assigning blame hastily, but about a meticulous search for truth to ensure that lessons are learned and systemic failures are corrected. In response to the disaster, both Air India and the government have a long road ahead in rebuilding public trust. The generous compensation package offered by the Tata Group is a commendable first step, But financial support is only one aspect of the response. Long-term psychological support for the survivor and the grieving families is essential. For the wider aviation industry, this incident must serve as a catalyst for a rigorous review of safety standards. Airlines and regulators worldwide will be watching the investigation's outcome closely, as its conclusions could have far-reaching implications for flight operations, engine manufacturing, and pilot training protocols. Ultimately, the legacy of Flight AI-171 must be a renewed and unwavering commitment to aviation safety. The grief and shock from this day must be channeled into meaningful action. As Ahmedabad mourns and the world looks on, the most important tribute to those who lost their lives is to ensure such a catastrophe is never repeated. The path forward involves not just rebuilding structures and compensating families, but fundamentally strengthening the systems that are designed to protect every single person who steps onto an airplane. The promise of a safe journey must be honored, always.